Hi, I'm Taryn from Taryn Winters Lingerie, and today we're going to do a behind the scenes process video of how I create my bespoke pieces. So I always start off with lace. Most of my collection is designed by fabrics that I'm inspired by or laces that I love, and a lot of times they're laces that are not really designed for lingerie. So this is my way of making them work. This is a piece from my spring summer collection. It's a all over lace. It's about 60 inches long, so it's much too big for lingerie. So what I like to do is find motifs, and this is usually what I do, is I find laces that have typically floral, but laces that I love, and this one is really organic, and I love the little details and the leaves and all the different textures within the flowers. There's some embroidery, and there's some sea beads and sequins. So what I typically would do is cut it apart and then redesign the motif to work for what I'm doing. So today we're going to do my demi bra. So what I do for this one is I cut out the large motif right here, and I just do a general cut around to take it out. And then for this particular style, some of them I use the whole motif. This one I use 3 different parts of it. So I can kind of be a little bit more liberal with my cutting. I take this small sprig, as I call it, because I'll use that for the bra. I use the main large flower. So I'll cut that out. And then I use one other small flower that's in there. So I take out this whole thing. For the larger cup sizes, I actually use the whole thing just to cover more area, but for this one we're going to do a 34B, so I actually don't need all of this, so I just take it out. And so those will be the 3 motifs that I'm going to use. So from the larger motif, I cut out the 3 different parts of the flower that I want to use for the bra. So I cut out the sprig, the larger flower, and then a smaller one. And they will get all pieced kind of together to create a unique motif. And then I just mirror it on the other side. Same thing, sprig, a larger leaf, flower, and then a smaller one that gets kind of wedged underneath it. The next, I will put it on the form. I'm going to pin the motif in place. So I start with the larger flower, kind of placing it where I think it's going to go. When I first started this, I kind of just did what I liked, and there were so many pieces. So now that I've made this bra about 200 times, I have a really specific way of doing it. So I have to be careful when I first start because I kind of get a little too into it, which then becomes a problem when you're doing all the hand sewing later. But so the main one goes there. I add this small kind of leafy piece here, and it goes underneath, and just pin it in place. It goes down there. And then the smaller flower on this side. So when I'm doing the bras, I'm kind of trying to find a way to discreetly cover the nipple, but I don't like it to be right in the center because then it just looks like a pasty. But I do want whoever's wearing it to kind of feel like they can wear it without a shirt if they wanted to. So it's really easy with the smaller sizes because it covers a lot of it, but when you get to the larger sizes, it just takes a little bit more time placing it so it looks natural. So that's the first side, and then I do it on the second side. And again, I do it by eye, just to make sure that it matches. Like that. I kind of like it when the beaver goes over the top. It just looks a little bit more full and natural, but and and taking the smaller flower. This one goes up, this one goes down. I like that asymmetry. I kind of always have something asymmetrical in my pieces. Again, just to make it look more natural and organic. Which is kind of cool because no bras are exactly the same. And then after I pin it in place, I'll just check that it's even. If I was having someone else do it for me, I would have them line up style tape just to make sure that all the points are correct. But again, at this point, I kind of have it down. So then that is pinning it in place. So next I am going to baste the lace in place. Basting is just a holding stitch. It's a really quick stitch. They're far apart to hold whatever you're doing. I mean, you would do this in anything, but in any type of sewing. But for me, it's to put it in place and then I take off the pins. I always use a color thread. Typically, I have this bright blue thread so that you don't, when you see the basting stitch, so it's not the color of the final thread. And so I always just typically use a really bright thread so that I don't forget it's there. Basted both sides. I take off all the remaining pins. And then I just take it off the form. And if there's any pins, I'll know right away. And so then it's basically in place. And then next I hand sew. Okay. And so then for that, this time I take the correct color thread. And just use a single thread to make the stitch as small as possible. So there are a lot of different parts that need to be sewn down really meticulously, like here, the little buds, which take a long time, but in the efforts to not have it come up, if someone were to rub their clothes or their arm on it, it's really important to get those little pieces down. And then the other thing that I do, which is why I baste it, is so that you don't get any mesh caught, because you want to have the full projection of the cup so that whoever's wearing it has all this space. So it's important to keep your hand there the whole time so that you don't lose that space for her chest. I usually start somewhere kind of easy, so just in the big corner. And just anchor my thread in. At the end, I'll go back and I cut all my threads and I cut all the excess mesh. I really can't stand having the basting stitch in my way, so I'll get rid of it right away. Especially because I can just hold that section in place, so I'll take this out as I go around. And then I do a whip stitch around here, so it's just going around the edges, holding it in place. So I go around basically the entire motif doing this. I can kind of be a little bit more liberal with the stitches here because it's not in jeopardy of coming up, so I'll just kind of skip around. And then when I get to the buds, it's a little bit more important to make sure that you get every single part down. An hour to 2, depending on how fast I'm sewing, but I won't put you through that. So when it's done, it looks like this. This is the finished bra. So before it's completely finished, I'll go in and I cut away any of the excess mesh. So anything that's here, I just want it to look like it's seamless and it's supposed to be there and there's no extra mesh. So I'll go in and cut all this with my small scissors. Careful not to then cut a hole in the bra that I just spent 4 hours making. And then any extra threads, and just make sure that there's no beads or anything that's loose. So just cut that out. I mean, and you can go really crazy and you can cut all this. Just depends. And so then that would be the finished bra. Stitch the entire motif down. Typically takes me about an hour to 2 hours, just depending on how fast I'm sewing. But for the sake of skipping that, this would be the finished bra. So after I've sewn everything in, what I like to go in and do is just check that there are no loose threads. I go in and I check all the little small motifs and just take away any extra lace or a mesh so that it looks completely seamless and it's just floating on the bra. So again, you could go in here, I could take this out just to make sure that it's completely clean. And I'll do this before I send out anything. I'll go through them all and just check. And then that would be the finished. If you want to see any more or other bespoke pieces, just come to my website, tarynwinters.com. And this is the Carice Bespoke Demi Bra in Jade.